Good morning, friends, and welcome to my final day at SHOT Show. I actually fly out tomorrow. I'm one of those geeks that like to go walking around early in the morning and check things out. I'm not into the traditional type stuff, which, speaking of traditional, actually I had my first drink of Starbucks coffee this morning, and I gotta say they should be ashamed of themselves to call that coffee. What a putrid taste of coffee it is for overpriced hippie snacks. But nevertheless, I needed coffee and there was nobody else open. I wanted to put a quick video out. Oh, by the way, that's not my Uber ride right behind me either. Pretty sweet ride there. Speed Racer shirt, by the way. I wanted to put this video out to talk a little bit about some of the things going on. We've been talking about stabilizing braces for the last week or so, and there's a lot happening in regards to stabilizing braces. I know a lot of the YouTube guys are here. Some are putting videos out. I know Jared from Guns and Gadgets have put some videos out. But I want to give a real quick update on some of the things that are happening for those of you that are not aware of the things that really are happening. I know a lot of people tend to give up hope a little bit sometimes when some of these negative things happen, but rest assured there's things happening behind the scenes. There was a bill put out at the beginning of the week to essentially outlaw the ruling of the ATF regarding stabilizing braces and pistols in general. And that is a pretty good bill, a relatively short bill, but needs to be short so that it's easily read and easily run through people of Congress who are normally not going to take the time to read these bills. I think that's a great start. I think that's more of a pinprick than anything else, because at least it gets it started. However, because it is so specific, it probably has more of a chance of passing than what came out the day before yesterday. Matt Gaetz from Florida came out with an abolish the ATF bill. Now, that's a wonderful start, at least in terms of getting the conversation going. We all know that to abolish the ATF is not going to be a quick, easy thing to do. That's why I think the other bill that's specific to stabilizing braces has more of a chance, and it could potentially be more effective, because again, it is way more specific. It's not doing away with an entire bureaucratic organization. However, the fact that an abolish the ATF bill is being put forth is a huge thing, because it gets that conversation going on what we need to do and why. And I will say this, when you talk to Matt Gaetz and look at the things that he's trying to do, he starts with the big thing, abolish the ATF. And he says, if that doesn't work, we'll go to the next thing. And some of the next things all the way down go to holding a lot of the people who work for them accountable for what they're doing. In other words, they are not looking at just the organization. They're looking at some of the people who work within the organization and holding them personally accountable for overstepping their bounds and assuming power that they don't have. And to me, that's a huge thing, because a lot of these guys in the ATF, these are guys that are self-loathing. You know, they hate their jobs. Even if they're liberals and they don't like guns, they still hate their job because they're hated people. People just don't like them. So they're self-loathing punks. So a lot of what they do is kind of like a bully. It's kind of like somebody who has never, it's like a beta male who all of a sudden feels like he has a little bit of perceived power, and now he can flex those muscles that he doesn't really have. So that's what we're dealing with in many cases. So by them doing what they're doing, they can always hide behind the organization, the ATF. And of course, Joe Biden's protecting the ATF. When we start holding these individual people personally by name responsible who work for the ATF, that's huge, because now they're not hiding behind the organization. They don't have that cover of the organization. Now their names are out there and they're going to be called in front of Congress. In fact, Matt Gaetz said within the next 2 to 3 weeks, expect to see members who work for the ATF to sit before Congress and answer some really difficult questions. One of the things that has always perplexed me with the ATF and what they're doing in terms of the stabilizing braces is the very fact that they keep citing public safety whenever they talk about this. And that's total bullcrap, guys. I gotta call it like it is. It's bullcrap. There's nothing to do with public safety, personal safety, or anything like that when it comes to outlawing stabilizing braces on AR pistols without getting a tax stamp. And that's what it is. That's all that it is. In fact, there's no rise in crime regarding these. It's like anything else. I've said it before. If suddenly you started painting 10% of the firearms that went out the door pink, at some point pink guns would show up at crime scenes, right? It doesn't mean that criminals prefer pink guns. It means that there are more of them in existence, so they start to happen to show up in existence at crime scenes because they are getting stolen, just like they steal every other gun, and then they use these guns in crimes. It doesn't mean that criminals prefer pink guns to carry out their crimes. It means there's more of them out there. And it's the same thing with the stabilizing braces. If you see one show up at a crime, it doesn't mean that there's a proliferation of stabilizing brace AR pistols out there. It means that there just happens to be more of them, and the thieves have caught up, and now they're stealing more of these and essentially using more of them in crime. What it does do is it makes the general public less safe. Why, you ask? Stabilizing braced AR pistols and SBRs, if you want to really get down to it, if we're talking about the NFA, they are safer for people. Why, do you ask? They're safer because they're easier to maneuver within your home. If you're trying to protect yourself and your family, having a full-sized AR-15 with a full-size stock and a 16-inch barrel or more is a lot harder to maneuver in your home in order to try to get that perpetrator out of there or deal with them. It's also harder to store. You're not going to be as effective storing it. Not everybody can afford a $1,300 safe in their home. So having a smaller safe is going to be able to encompass and hold that if a person's wanting to put it in a safe. And even if they just want to put it in a safe location, not necessarily in a safe, it's easier to do that in a smaller package. It doesn't mean they're criminals because they want to keep their gun away from their children. Are you kidding me? And last but not least, I see these efforts to ban stabilizing braces without getting a tax stamp and SBRs. I see this as an effort to make the people who probably need protection the most less safe. Women and older people. Yeah, I know. If you look at today's culture, women are stronger than men and can do more than men. Let's face it, they can't, right? I'm not saying women are useless and can't do some of the things that men do, but women are not physically born as strong as men. That is an absolute fact. I don't care, other than the Supreme Court, our new Supreme Court justice can't seem to figure this out. But if you are smart enough to take a basic science class, you know these things. Same goes for older people. We are, by taking these items out of here that they can't use and banning them without having them pay $200 to do that, not only disenfranchises poor people, but it also disenfranchises older people and women, because these smaller packages are easier for them to handle in many ways, not just the length of them, but the weight of them also. So we're making people who need that protection less safe. So I think that we are seeing some folks that are taking this serious, and there's kind of a groundswell that I'm seeing. Another thing that I want to point out also, and the reason why we're wanting to push this and talk about it so much, is the ATF is also trying to downplay how many people are affected by all of this. We know that there's at least 40 million stabilized and braced items out there, firearms. We know that. We just know that. I know, talking to Alex Bosco a while ago, a year ago when I talked to Alex, he had sold 7 million of his own SB tactical braces out there. The ATF is acting like only 3 or 4 million people are going to be affected by this. The numbers prove that they are lying. And again, SB Tactical, that was a year ago. They probably have sold 20 million by now. So between all the companies selling these stabilizing braces, we know without a doubt that there's 40 million plus out there. The ATF is trying to make it sound like, oh, it's not going to have that big of an impact simply because there's not many of them out there. They're lying or they're stupid, or both. So we know that they're being deceptive or they're just uneducated when it comes to this. So that's one thing that it's I guess important to do, because if you don't own a stabilizing brace and you haven't been part of this conversation, you may believe what the ATF is saying, that there's a very small number of people out there that'll be affected by this. That is a lie. So I want you to know that a lot of the American public are going to be affected by this. And what is the effect? The effect is 10 years in prison and becoming a felon and massive fines. So this is huge. So guys, look for the bills, again, to abolish the ATF and to get rid of this stabilizing brace ruling altogether. Look for some of those things to come out. Let's remember, the ATF can't make laws. Congress makes laws. One little thing that the ATF is trying to do is, because they know that they can't make law, they're saying that they're not making law with the stabilized brace ruling. They say that they are adjusting an existing law or clarifying an existing law, and we know that that's bull. This is something that they're all of a sudden doing by putting penalties and things like that out there that's going to send people to prison and all of a sudden make people pay $250,000 fines. You can call it what you want about changing the wording of a particular existing law, but if you suddenly are taking a group of people who have been buying a product for 10 years completely legally and suddenly making them felons, that is a change in the law, and the ATF cannot do that.
We survive!